It's okay. We're so grateful. It's so exciting. Thanks everybody for coming to the Wednesday afternoon discussion. Today we have Imam Nawaz, who's currently a full-time Imam and teacher at the Madina Institute for Nonviolence and Peace in Little Rock. Imam Nawaz has visited with us before at the Steele Center, and we're grateful for his visit today. He's a religious and spiritual advisor for the mosque's community and an active participant in interfaith dialogue with the Madina Institute. We're grateful he'll be leading the discussion today about Islam, peace, and nonviolence. So let's give Imam Nawaz a warm welcome.
Should we use that microphone?
It'll pick up.
Oh, okay. Great.
Just talk.
Assalamu alaikum, peace and shalom to everyone. So in the name of God, the most merciful and unconditionally compassionate. My name is Mohammad Nawaz. Before I begin, I want to apologize for being late. I'm a father of three little ones. The youngest one is only five months old. So I had to pick up my son from school and then drop him off at home. And then I was expecting the drive to be around 20-25 minutes. Then it happened to be 35 minutes. And with the construction and other stuff. So I want to apologize sincerely to everyone for wasting some of your time. So I was born and raised in India, the southern part of India. I've studied in India quite a bit. I graduated in India and then I moved to US. In 2014, I came straight to Madina Institute. Madina Institute is a global organization. So before I move on to Madina Institute, I came as a guest singer, basically, for a Sufi poem. And I kind of liked in Atlanta, especially they were about to start the one-year program there. And I liked it. I joined it there. Then they applied for my visa. So I got to stay in Medina, Atlanta. And then I moved to Arkansas in 2017. We opened Madina Institute in Little Rock, Arkansas in November 2016. And I moved here 2017. And I came here for 6 months. And I'm still spending my 6 months in Arkansas. So that's my brief journey. And also I'm a graduate of Madina Institute too. So Madina Institute is a global organization. We have over 12 locations across the globe, which includes USA and UK, Manchester, we have Madina Institute there. And in Cape Town, South Africa, Johannesburg. Also, we have Madina Institute in Malaysia, Norway, Sweden. We have Madina Institute in, we had one in Sudan before the crisis, but after the crisis, we had to come back from there. And also we're working on a branch in India as well. We have Madina Institute in Canada. So we have branches all over the USA. The founder of Madina Institute is Dr. Sheikh Mohammed bin Yahya Ninawi. He's originally Syrian, but also he moved to USA 35 years back, and he had a dream to open Madina Institute and serve the community across the world, not just in the United States. And Madina Institute began around 2008 or 7, somewhere in South Africa. Then they extended its branches in the UK. It came after in USA, in Atlanta. And then from Atlanta, it spread in Arkansas, in Milwaukee. And then we are about to come up with another branch in Dallas. So Madina Institute, we have 3 core principles that we firmly believe in. And we actively promote and practice and be a symbolic for those 3 core principles at Madina Institute. First is compassion, and second is education and illumination. And I asked our founder, why did he put the compassion instead of education? Because even the compassion has to come from education, right? But he said, no, that's not necessarily. And he quoted a verse of the Quran. I will be sharing the verses of the Quran as I'm moving forward. So you will know why, you will have that in front of your screen. So he quoted this verse of the Quran. It's called Chapter Ar-Rahman, and the name of Rahman. Rahman is one of the noun of Allah, the Creator. Here is the Arabic version of it, Rahman. It comes from the root letter Rahim. Rahim means the womb of the mother. And the reason the womb of the mother is called Rahim, Rahim is actually mercy. That's the root root letters for mercy. Rahma means mercy. One of the reasons it's called mercy or comes from Rahim is because the womb of the mother unconditionally provides shelter, compassion, education, nutrition, love, and extreme care and protection to the baby unconditionally. And that is why it's called Rahim, because it's a symbol of mercy to the unborn child. So Ar-Rahman, then in the Arabic language, Arabic language is very unique, has a very difficult grammar. So Rahman, so you have Rahim, which is the noun, and exaggerated, someone who's merciful called Rahim. So like most of us can be merciful. So we are called Rahim, someone who's merciful occasionally. And then an exaggerated form of Rahim is Rahim. Rahim is someone who's extremely merciful. And the only one in the creation entitled with Rahim is the Prophet Muhammad in the Quran, at least I would say, because God states in the Quran, in the chapter of the prophets, that he has not sent you except as a mercy to the universe. Not just the believers, not just the Muslims. Rather, he says to the universe, to the entire universe. And so he comes as a mercy to the universe. And an exaggerated form of Rahim is what Rahman is. So this chapter begins with Rahman. And before every chapter, we recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah, in the name of Allah, the God. Ar-Rahman, the description of that God is what? He is Ar-Rahman, unconditionally compassionate. That is the closest and best translation. Some people say most merciful, but that's not really the translation. The closest translation would be unconditionally compassionate, because this is an exaggerated form of Rahim and Rahim, someone who's unconditionally merciful. So the most compassionate, also a close meaning. Then he says, Allama al-Quran. The most compassionate taught the Quran. That's the second verse. Khalaq al-insan, created humanity. And al-insan is human being here. Most of the commentator, they say al-insan here is referring to the Prophet Muhammad, or maybe Adam, the first human being was ever created. So he created Adam or Muhammad or human being. So who created human being? The most compassionate. Who created human being? The most compassionate. Who taught him the Quran, the guidance? The most compassionate. Allamahul bayan, and taught them the speech. What speech? The speech of compassion. So when I asked him that, why did you put compassion before education, he said this is the reason, because the compassion comes first. God, when he introduced us the teachings of the Quran, the creation of human being, he doesn't start with saying that we taught the Quran. Rather, he starts with introducing himself, that the most compassionate is the one who taught Quran. So teaching comes after introduction of the compassion of the most compassionate. So we firmly believe in those three principles, compassion, and then education and illumination. And we actively practice that and promote that throughout all the Madina Institute organizations. And having said that, and therefore this is one of the reasons we came up with this peace and nonviolence and peace studies at Madina Institute. We have online courses as well as in-person courses too. So before I move on to the online and this nonviolence and peace studies, I would just want to give you a brief introduction of Islam, what Islam is really. Most of you might be familiar with Islam, but just a recap for all of us. Often people make a mistake of introducing Islam from the time of the Prophet Muhammad, 1400 years back, but that's not true. That's not really accurate. Al-Islam begins when the world began to us, according to the Quran. Islam began from the beginning of the creation, from the creation of the mankind, Adam. So when God created Adam and Eve, he sent them with a mission and a vision. And that mission was to worship one alone creator, the one created them. That's the mission, which is called monotheism. So instead of worshiping the creation, you worship the creator. So Adam came with this core principle or core message or practice or belief that to worship one alone God, one alone creator. And after Adam, obviously some of his children carried that mission of reminding people to worship one alone creator, and eventually there is a life after death and you will be held accountable for your actions. So make sure you live with this belief that you are going to worship your creator and you will be held accountable for your actions in this world. So make sure you remain just throughout your life. And so the core messages, two messages, which we could say is but worshiping the creator who created you and upholding the flag of justice with peace. Upholding the flag of justice with peace. These are the two core messages that Adam came with. And then after Adam, Noah, like amongst the super like famous prophets, Noah, and then after Noah, Abraham, and then after Abraham, Moses and Jesus and the Prophet Muhammad. These five are the superior prophets in our tradition, according to the Quran as well. So they all came with the same core key message to worship one alone creator and uphold the flag of justice with peace, obviously. I mean, there can never be justice with violence by definition, right? By default. Justice can never prevail with violence. So you can never have justice where there is a violence, or you can never have violence where there is a justice. So they don't match, they can't sing together at all. So that's what Al-Islam is all about. Practices, rituals have been slightly different throughout the time. Rituals and rulings based on the era, based on the time, based on the challenges, they have been different. And therefore, even within Islam, within Christianity, within Judaism, you have scholarly debate about the things and rituals, how to perform, which is prohibited, which is not prohibited, and all of that. But there are some core acts of worship or rituals that existed in almost every single prophet, which is performing the prayer different times of the day, and fasting also had been there amongst most of the prophets. There are 5 pillars of, so the Prophet Muhammad also came with the same mission, to worship one alone creator instead of worshiping the creation, and upholding the flag of justice and with the peace. And he became the symbol of that, and he became the symbol of mercy, in fact. And that is how the Quran introduces him to. As he said, the Quran says, we have not sent you except as a mercy to the universe, right? So Al-Islam, you all have heard, one of the meaning of Islam is what? Peace, right? That's where the word comes, Assalamu alaikum, or salam, peace be upon you all. And also one of the meaning of Al-Islam is absolute submission to God, absolute submission to the creator, the one who created you. So you don't go on your own definitions of justice. You know, there are so many people, so-called nations are saying that we are peacemakers, while they are the ones causing the most violence and the most bloodshed. And in fact, you know, it's funny thing in the Quran, God mentions that when Pharaoh, he called his nation to believe in him. He says, I'm afraid that Moses might cause corruption on the planet and he will change your religion. So he used the religion and he says Moses is going to cause corruption, as if he's saying that I'm the one who's going to make peace, while he was the one killing, massacring, killing the babies and children. You know what Israel is doing and some other folks. So again, you know, I don't want to go into politics, but I want to stay on the point. Islam came to sort of, you know, bring a new life in the humanity, not just in believers, in the humanity. And Islam came to give hope, to give life. Not only Islam, in fact, you know, all the religion. Our founder of Madina Institute, he would always say that Islam and Christianity and Judaism, all the religion, they came to give life. That's why you will see no prophet ever came with weapon. You will never see any prophet from Adam all the way to Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them all. None of them came with weapons. They all came with peace, with justice, for justice. And that's what they did throughout their lives. So then we have in Islam, we have 5 pillars of Islam. Shahada, testifying that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah. Second is praying 5 times a day. Third is fasting 1 month in the month of Ramadan. We just passed that month, the month of Ramadan. And then also obligatory charity, which is 2.5% off of your savings annually that you have to give to poor and needy. And then after that, after fasting, we have pilgrimage of Mecca, the house of God. It's not in a physical sense, it's more metaphorically speaking. Pilgrimage, that's once in a life. So out of 5 pillars, 4 of them are either 2 of them are annual, which is fasting in the month of Ramadan, and the obligatory charity. That's like annual practice. And then Shahada, testifying there is none worthy of worship, and the pilgrimage is once in life. The only thing that is required on a daily basis is the 5 prayers. And then these are the 5 pillars. You can build upon them as much as you can. For example, you can build on the 5 prayers by adding extra voluntary prayers. You can build upon fasting by fasting every Monday, Thursday, which is the practice of the Prophet Muhammad. And the obligatory charity, highly encouraged that you can build upon giving as much as you can give. There is a saying, also famous saying in Islam, that the more you give, the longer you live. The less you give, the lesser you live. So your life in Islam is measured by, not by the number of years or days that you live. Rather, your life is measured by your accomplishments. How much have you accomplished? How much have you given back to the community? That is how your life is measured by in Islam. Therefore, some of the people like Noah still lives amongst us. And Abraham still lives amongst us. Jesus still lives amongst us. Moses still lives amongst us. Their lives is not measured by how many years they lived. Rather, their life is measured by what they've accomplished, right? So, and obviously after that, you all are familiar with, you know, unfortunately, the violence that has occurred in the Middle East in the past by these radical groups. I don't want to call them Islamic radical because there is no Islamic radical, and we need to fix this language of using Islamic radical or jihadist group. I firmly advocate and always say that violence does not have a religion. Violence does not have a religion at all. Anyone who's causing violence, their purpose is not a religion at all. At all. Their purpose is power and position or money. This is all they're chasing after. So labeling with the religion, so I always try to, you know, remind my brothers and sisters across the globe that don't ever use the word Islamic radical or Christian radical, all of that. And then violence has no religion. Anyway, increasing that violence in the Middle Eastern part and some other portion of the world too, the Madina Institute recognized the need of promoting nonviolence and peace studies. This is just the weekend online nonviolence, peace and studies there. But we also have like full-time. Full-time mean we offer 1 year intensive Saudi program at Madina Institute. How much time do I have? I'll try to write it out.
25 minutes.
25 minutes, okay. I'll take 10 more minutes, then we'll open for a Q&A, right? So we came up with this idea of peace and nonviolence studies. Actually, it's funny thing, we started by saying peace and nonviolence Islamic studies. Then we removed Islamic from, because in Islamic studies, you don't have violence at all. So it's all peace and peace. So therefore, we didn't feel the need of adding Islamic. So we took that out. We came up with this subject of nonviolence and peace studies. So you can go on website, you can more about, just type like nonviolence and peace studies center at Madina Institute. So we have a whole center dedicated for that. We have instructors, Dr. Fatima Hendricks, you know, happened to be Hendricks last name, and Ustad Yahya Shami, their PhDs and master in their history subjects and also in Islamic studies too. And there is a subject overview here and the topics that are covered. What are the full costs of war? Can there be realistic alternatives to war and violence? Can we compare the results of nonviolent struggle versus violent struggle? Do Muslims have a history of nonviolent action against authoritarian rulers and occupiers? And then how can peaceful methods enable people to defeat violent opposition? So learning outcomes are there. You can see a lot more details there. Just type Nonviolence and Peace Studies Center at Madina Institute, USA. So as I said, Madina Institute has branches. We all work together. We all collaborate with each other. And especially this summer, we are offering, so the goal of our founder, Madina Institute, is that he wants this curriculum to be added to colleges, universities on an international level. And he's working towards that. He's working currently with the Sultan of Indonesia closely to launch this on a global level, and with the King of Malaysia, and also with the son of Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey. And in fact, we're offering a one month youth camp in Turkey, the University of Bilal Erdogan, the Tayyip Erdogan's son, where we're trying to we're selecting the best 100 students, ages between 12 to 18. We're going to give them training, and part of it also educating them and inspiring them to become the leaders of the world who can uphold the flag of justice with peace and equality, and also promote the nonviolence and peace in the world. So that's one of the reasons we came up with this theory. Briefly, I want to touch what Islam really says about nonviolence and peace. So again, as I said, Islam began from the time of the human being's creation, right? When the human was created, that's where Islam began, because the key message of Islam is to worship one alone God and to hold the flag of justice and peace. So I'm going to share the verses of the Quran that will tell you what really peace and nonviolence to Islam is. So there is a chapter called Ma'idah, and I'm going to share a story. How many of you have heard the story of Habil and Qabil? In the English version of it is Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel. I'm not good with the English terminologies, but the Arabic version of it, Habil and Qabil. How many of you are familiar with the story of Abel and Cain? Most of you are familiar, right? You know that Abel, he sacrificed, and Cain also sacrificed. Abel's sacrificial was accepted, and Cain's was not accepted. So Cain got upset with Abel, and let's go to these verses. So this is a chapter number 5, verse 27. The God says, I'll just read the translation. Relate to them in truth, O Prophet, the story of Adam's two sons, how each offered a sacrifice. One's offering was accepted while the other's was not. So he threatened his brother. Who? Cain threatened Abel, his brother. I will kill you. This is what he said. I will kill you. His brother replied, Allah, God, the God, only accepts the offering of the sincerely devoted. It says muttaqeen here. Muttaqeen means God-fearing people, or the people who have taqwa. You know, the taqwa is basically, it's a wider subject in Islam. Taqwa is basically positive contribution. The summary of taqwa is a positive contribution. In one of the verse, God says, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, the most honorable amongst you to God, someone who contributes the most positively. And also, muttaqi, someone who has this quality of taqwa, is someone who has a passive nature, who's a positive person, who has a positive attitude. He's not a negative person. He is not affected by the negative energy around him. He is a very positive person. So in other place, the Quran says that the muttaqi is the one who is who bears his anger, who contributes during the times of ease and difficulties both. Someone who pardons people. This is what the muttaqi is. So what he's saying, that the Quran is saying that Abel is a muttaqi person. He has a positive nature. He's not a negative person. So he says God accepts the offering of the sincerely devoted. Then Abel is telling Cain, لَإِن بَسَطْتَ إِلَيَّ يَدَكَ لِتَقْتُلَنِي مَا أَنَا بِبَاسِطٍ يَدِيَ إِلَيْكَ لِأَقْتُلَكَ. If you raise your hand to kill me, I will not raise mine to kill you. And Quran, this is the nature of Quran. Quran generally does not give us the whole story, because it's not a book of story. Quran is a book of guidance for us. Quran rather narrates you these stories just to give you the key message out of that story. So out of the whole story, it does not mention which kind of animal they sacrificed, what time was that, what place was that. No. It just gives us the key message. His sacrificial was not accepted, but the one who was righteous, his was accepted. And then the one was not righteous, look at his language. He threatened him, he said, I will kill you. His brother Abel is saying that even if you extend, basatta means like extending your hands to kill. He said, if you extend your hand to kill me, I will not even extend my hand to kill you, for the sake that I fear the Lord of all worlds. I fear the Lord of all worlds. And then he says, a couple of things. Now, the point I'm highlighting here is the son of Adam, who was a righteous man, who Quran revealed his narration to us as a role model, is what? Non-violence. The approach of Cain was, our teacher always say, K stands for killer, right? So that's how we remember Cain is the one who threatened him to kill. So the approach of the killer was that he threatened him that I'll kill you. But versus the approach of righteous one, the son of Adam, was, even if you extend your hand to kill me, I will not extend my hand to kill you. This is what the teachings of Islam. However, I want to add this to this point, is that in Islam, the definition of non-violence is not the definition of the Martin Luther King or the Mahatma Gandhi in India. But are you guys familiar with the definition of the non-violence of Mahatma Gandhi in India and Martin Luther King? I'm pretty sure. But in our tradition, in our belief, the definition of non-violence is that we try our best to prevent violence in any form, but that doesn't mean we will not defend ourselves. We will defend ourselves. And in fact, that's one of the reasons God mandated the jihad. Jihad means fighting in the path of God, not to kill, rather to defend. And that's what in another chapter in Surah Hajj, God says that clearly, that أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا, that the believers are granted the permission to fight because, let me share that verse here. Right here. Right. Permission to fight back. So even the translation says, permission to fight back. Yuqataluna means not fighting. Rather, when someone comes in front of you and he threatens you that he's going to kill you, that's when you fight back, you defend. So says permission to fight back is hereby granted to those being fought, or those who are wronged. This is the word, you see the word translation there, were wronged. So the only time you're allowed to fight back is when you're wronged, not for the purpose of gaining the power or expanding your kingdom or your power. The purpose is what? بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. In another verse also the God says that one of the reason says قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ. Fight those who fight with you or who fight against you. Only those. And do not cross your limits explicitly. Quran says that do not transgress in fighting. What is the meaning of transgressing? Which means do not fight those who are not fighting you. So obviously, you know, some of the verses people have misquoted also by Muslims. Unfortunately, some of the so-called Muslims, they used some of the verses out of the context of the Quran. They, you know, sort of promoted violence across the globe. And that's what one of the reason, again, we came up with the, you know, the peace and nonviolence studies. One last thing I want to share here is, and I'll conclude with this, inshallah. There's another chapter called Anbiya. Anbiya means, it's the plural of Nabi. Nabi is the prophet of God. So in this chapter, chapter 21, God narrates the story of Abraham here. And the reason is because Abraham is the father of the prophets in Islam, because most of the prophets who came from Abraham were who came are from the lineage of Abraham all the way to Jesus, and including the Prophet Muhammad. So he relates the story of Abraham. Abraham had a dialogue with his father that, why are you worshiping these idols instead of worshiping the one created you? And then he was young at that time. He broke the idols just to prove his case. And then when they asked him, they asked, was it you who did this to our gods, O Abraham? He replied sarcastically that no, this one, the large idol, the biggest of them, did it. So ask them if they can talk. He told them, like, why don't you ask your gods if they can talk? Who did this to them? So they came back to their senses, saying to one another, you yourselves are truly the wrongdoers. And then they quickly regressed to their original mindset, arguing, you already know that those idols cannot talk. Then Abraham, he replied back to them, he rebuked them. Do you then worship instead of Allah what can neither benefit nor harm you in any way? Shame on you, and whatever you worship instead of the God, do you not have any sense? So he is having a logical argument with them. Look, what did they respond? They said, قَالُوا حَرِّقُوهُ. They concluded, burn him up to avenge your gods, if you must act. What the Quran is presenting here again, Abraham, he's using the power of logic. I want you to pay attention to this. Abraham, he's using the power of logic. That as these gods, if they can speak, he's using the power of logic to prove his case, to have a healthy dialogue, to convince them to worship the creator instead of creation. So he used the power of logic. But in return, these people, by saying burn him alive, they're using what? The logic of power. And that is what promoted violence. It's a violence, burning someone alive, it's a violence, right? So in Islam, Islam highly urged us, encouraged us to be active in using your power of logic versus logic of power. And when people start using the logic of power, that's when the violence occurs. And there are so many examples like this in the Quran that the stories of the prophets and stories of many other people who are not even prophets, and so many verses in the Quran that actually promotes towards this and all of that. So this is just a brief introduction to non-violence and peace. And in fact, when the Prophet he liberated Mecca in the 8th year after the migration, he had a chance to kill everyone who caused mass killing, who killed many servants of Muslims. But that day he marked saying that on this day I have forgiven you all. Right? So the day he had whole power to take revenge from people, he announced unconditional forgiveness to everyone. So there are so many stories of that. We're working hard to expand our wings of peace and nonviolence studies across the world, not just, and therefore at Madina Institute, we have many programs, many events, many, activities, and also we are trying to recruit students, especially young folks. Our target is to enroll most of the college graduates or high school graduates for our 1-year intensive student program. By myself, I used to be very judgmental and negative person before I came to Madina Institute. Madina Institute changed my whole perspective of looking at the world. And one big change that Madina Institute made me to do is to look at every human being as a human being, and infused this verse, rooted in my heart. God says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We've dignified the children of Adam unconditionally, no matter their race, their color, their language, their religion, their ethnicity. Every single human being is dignified and honored. And thankfully, praise to God that He allowed me to be part of Madina Institute. And that's one of the reasons I've been with Madina Institute since I've ever come to the US. So with that, I'm sorry for taking too long. I had a lot more things to cover, but I'll stop right here. I'll take questions and answers now. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I was just wondering if you completed the Hajj, and if so, if you could tell us like how your experience was with so many people from around the world coming together because of the belief in Allah.
I'm not the right person to answer as I haven't completed my Hajj yet, but I'll definitely be more. I would refer you to Malcolm X. Read his letter that he wrote from Hajj after he performed Hajj. That really gives you, I think, better explanation of the feeling of a Muslim that is going to perform Hajj. Just type like Malcolm X letter from Hajj. It's so amazing. Yeah, you're so welcome. That's actually changed him. His journey to Hajj was a turning point in his life, that from the Nation of Islam movement, who happened to think that the blacks are superior over the whites, that actually, the Hajj actually changed him when he saw people from different colors, even the prime ministers, and the different positions, most powerful people are coming wearing the same clothes. When you perform Hajj, you have to, no matter how rich you are or how poor you are, you all have to wear the same color of 2 pieces of cloth. When you wrap up the lower part of your body, and then when you just wrap the upper part of your body, everyone is wearing the same color standing in the same rows to perform. No one is superior. No one is allowed to, go in front or do based on the position power. That really changed him, and his letter is so amazing. Yeah. Seems like no one has any questions. So I always say that if you don't have any questions, which means there are two possibilities. One is you either understood everything very well, so you don't have any questions, either you didn't understand anything at all. I hope that's not the case. I would highly urge you all to visit Madina Institute's website and take a deeper look into our peace and nonviolent studies. And if you can be part of it or help us with anything, or in fact, if you can join the course. So Madina Institute Arkansas is, our community is not big in Arkansas, in Little Rock. We have roughly, I think probably around 1,000 to 1,500 Muslim families in Little Rock. So our programs, the one-year program, cost a lot of money. So, and also we need at least 20 to 30 students in order to offer our one-year intensive student program, Islamic studies program, which is also part of the curriculum. Also is the peace and nonviolent studies too. So we have Medina Atlanta. 4 students from Little Rock went to Medina Atlanta. They spent one whole year there studying this one-year course. Yeah.
Any questions?
Yes.
Earlier you were talking about
Yes. Rahim is the noun, which means Rahma is actually mercy. And Rahma comes from Rahim. Rahim means the womb of the mother. As I mentioned, the womb of the mother provides unconditional care, love, compassion, nutrition, protection to the unborn. And then an exaggerated form of someone who's merciful is called Rahim, Raahim, Rahim. And someone who's extremely merciful is Rahim, which is like Raheem, Rahim. So the first one is Rahim, Raahim. The second, who's extremely merciful, is Rahim, Raheem. And Rahman is an exaggerated form of Rahim, unconditionally, the most compassionate, which is Allah, the God. And he actually, he says in the Quran, you call unto him. There are more than 99 names, characteristic names to God that you can invoke him with. But he preferred 2 out of 100. One is Allah. Allah means the God. Every time you refer to Allah, you're actually referring him to all 99 names. So Allah is the conclusion of all 99 names. So you're automatically referring to as Ar-Rahman when you're calling him to Allah. And then the second preference is Ar-Rahman, that you call on to him, and the most compassionate, Ar-Rahman. And so that's why we have our core principles is compassion, education, illumination. So we educate people with compassion to illuminate their hearts and their communities as well as their countries.
Any other questions?
You're more than welcome to get connected to Sophia or Dima or Basim or some other Muslim students. You're always welcome to come and visit us at Madina Institute in Little Rock anytime. Every Friday we have a special service, Friday prayer. We offer lunch also after Friday prayer, so you can join us. You can make a whole trip. In the month of Ramadan, we had the middle table, 50 chairs on for our guests from different faith groups. So we had at least 10 different churches participated in breaking fast with us. We're actively engaging in our interfaith work too. The whole purpose is to compassion, education, and illumination. So yeah, so you're more than welcome to stop by anytime. You can have my email if you have any questions, imam@madinainstitute.us. You even can visit our Madina Institute's local website, Madina Institute, Arkansas. You can find my contact information there, or you can reach out to any one of us for more questions or any concerns or anything, or any suggestions or feedbacks too.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you all for listening to me patiently, and please again apologize for being a bit late.
Can you stick around for discussion a
Yes,
little bit
yes,
with
yes,
people?
yes.
Feel free to come up. And thanks everybody for coming. Next week, we have our last discussions and our Steel Center speaker. So next week on Wednesday, we'll have a discussion on false equivalencies and political arguments. Please come to that. And then next Thursday night, we will have a discussion on domination and identity politics. That'll be in the Hunley Shell Thursday, April 25th at 7 p.m. Presented by Nathan DeFord. So thanks everybody for coming, and thank you to Imam Nawaz.